A few years ago, when Google released their Chromecast with Google TV, it honestly amazed me that we had arrived at a time and a place where a pretty darn solid streaming box could be sold for now as low as like $25. I just tried to highlight that and I could not. $25, full HD, Google TV, all the applications. It's relatively performant. You know, you can go around the menu relatively easily. It works quite well. I've got several of them in my house now. There's one in the living room, one in the bedroom. They're really good for the price. But just the other day, I came across this thing. It's by ONN. I don't know if you're supposed to read that or not. This is like Walmart's brand. And it is a Google TV. Notice it's 4K as well. Notice that it's $19.88. And that's not a sale price. That's just what it costs. So I did what any reasonable tech enthusiast would do. I drove to my local Walmart and I bought one. And we're going to see today how good is the Walmart brand less than $20 TV box. And I think a good place to start is by just looking at the specifications. So the ONN streaming box, 4K UHD resolution, that's already big because the Chromecast that is a little bit more expensive than this is only 1080p. Now there is a 4K version, but it is even more expensive than that. So we're going to compare their cheapest to their cheapest. We do have 2 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs of storage. They list 1.5 gigs of RAM and Google says 8 gigs of storage. So we're in a similar place, maybe actually more RAM, surprisingly. Quad-core Cortex A35 processor, which even digging into Google's pages, they don't seem to really talk about the processor. I've heard it might even be like a very similar processor, so we're going to see if the actual performance moving around is similar or not. We have Dolby Audio. They both do run Google TV OS, so the software should look very similar. Of course, with the Chromecast, Dolby Digital, Digital Plus, Dolby Atmos. On paper, they look very, very similar. Some wins for the Chromecast, some wins for the ONN box. I think now what you need to do is unbox this thing and plug it in, and let's see what we have. All right, guys, the ONN Google TV streaming box. Like I said, Dolby Audio, but not like the best Dolby Audio, right? Like not like the Vision or any of that stuff, not like the top-end stuff, but like I keep saying, 4K resolution, 700,000 movies and TV shows, full spec list on the bottom down there in case you just want to read that yourself. We're going to go ahead and crack this bad boy open though. And we have a box within a box. Let's open up the second box and we have a power supply here. Unfortunately, USB was it micro, I guess. That's a little bit annoying, but whatever, we can make that work. We have an instruction manual here, a quick start guide, which I don't think I'm probably going to need. Here is the box itself. This is not too bad in terms of size. Obviously, it's a lot bigger than Google's box, and maybe it doesn't look quite as nice, but I think it's going to be just fine. It's definitely small enough to be able to hide away. Some kind of a button there. HDMI, and then your power, and that's pretty much it. I am curious, though, about the remote control. HDMI cable in the box, that is great. Some batteries for the remote. Looks like some sort of like adhesive of some sort, maybe to like stick the thing down. And here is the remote. That is not too bad. Looks like we have like maybe a profile button, the button to do like a voice search, a dedicated settings button, home, back. Not sure what that's going to do. Individual buttons in there for YouTube, Netflix, Disney, and Paramount Plus. I think that's pretty decent. And then that button is to actually pair the remote. Let me grab the remote for the Chromecast and we'll compare. Actually, I went ahead and just grabbed one of the Chromecasts as well so we could do a full comparison. So this is the remote that Google came up with. And I think that it's a pretty darn solid remote. It's definitely like a reasonable size. I like the kind of rounded shape to it. But, the one that ONN has here has more buttons, and maybe that's going to be useful to you. If we compare the actual boxes themselves, the Chromecast one is a whole lot smaller, a whole lot thinner, but this is going to be hidden behind your TV, and they're both definitely small enough for that to not really matter. So let's go through this setup here really quickly and kind of give our thoughts on that. Probably nothing all that interesting. If there's not, I might just skip through this stuff. This looks like a pretty standard Google TV setup process, although we do have the ability to set this up with the Google Home app on my phone. So we're going to do that. So I'm not sure whose fault it is, but this has been going on for several minutes. So we're just going to ignore that and we're going to set up on TV instead. Again, could be phone's fault. I don't really know which one is causing it, but we're going to try that instead. So we're connected to Wi-Fi. Now we need to do our Gmail account. So now it's actually taking me through some setup for the Google Assistant Activate Voice Match on this TV, get personal results. So that's pretty cool to see. You know, the remote does have that voice searching ability. We can choose the apps that we are subscribed to. It looks like YouTube, Disney Plus, and Hulu are required, but we're going to tick the boxes here for some things that we do have. We have Sling and we have Paramount Plus for some reason. So let's click on confirm. And I'm assuming that means it's going to go and download those applications for me. So you could actually set this up so that your remote controls your television power and volume. We're going to skip this for now because I'm actually plugged into a capture card and not a television. Let's let this thing go through the rest of the setup process and we'll pick up when we're at the main menu. All right, we can now start exploring, as you see, and this is a very familiar site for me. This is exactly what my Google TV normally looks like. You have your suggestions up at the top picks for you, and they do try to base this off of things that you do watch, and it tends to be relatively accurate, if not occasionally wrong, like I'm probably not going to watch La Brea, but generally speaking, it's okay. You've got your apps here listed. Continue watching. This is pulling from YouTube and only the last 3 videos, but that should improve. Free TV is something that they've actually added recently as well. Movies, YouTube. You can customize a lot of this stuff, at least you should be able to. So the first thing I want to point out is that scrolling through this feels fine. This does not feel, you know, like it's lacking in performance. There's a few frame drops here and there, but that's true with Google's Chromecast as well. We do need to kind of clean this up though. So let's hold the select button here and we're going to, I guess all we can do is move. So we're just going to move this to the end because I don't actually have Netflix. We'll clean this up really quickly. Actually, before we spend too much time or waste too much time doing that, let's jump into our settings here, which did kind of lag a little bit. No big deal though. And let's see if we can go into apps and how many of these we can sort of clean up. So let's see all apps. It's not showing any. There we go. Okay, so Netflix, we can disable it. So that's good enough. We'll disable Netflix. Peacock can't actually be fully uninstalled. Tubi TV can be fully uninstalled. We're going to do that as well. All right, so we are looking pretty good now. Let's see how quickly this thing will launch into YouTube. And that also wasn't too bad. Honestly, the performance is pretty surprising. Let's jump into one of my own videos here. Yeah, I mean, everything's running almost identically to how I remember my Chromecast with Google TV running. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, maybe you can't. Maybe this is something that they've gotten rid of because it seems like it just keeps going. There we go. Manage services. So we can actually go here and we can kind of change what we want to have popping up on that screen. And you can see most of this stuff is already turned off. We don't want that popping up. I don't care about Paramount Plus stuff popping up either. It looks like that's about everything that we can remove, but hopefully that does get rid of some of the stuff there scrolling through. And it looks like there's still quite a bit. Let's fire up one of these live TV things. We'll just do CBS News. And okay, that is linking me to install Pluto TV. That makes sense. Of course, you can go up to apps, and this is where you're going to look for different applications. There's some that I'm going to need to install that are on my other devices. That is super useful. Send files to TV. That's something we're going to check out here as well. Let's make sure that it's going to actually allow us to install or sideload APKs from our other devices. I'm not going to go into like a deep dive on how this thing works. It's really, really simple though. You install it on your phone as well, and you can send files like APKs directly to this television. You do have to allow it to access all files. Hit allow there, and we should be able to go back to this app, and we'll try sending it a simple APK. So as you can see here, I was very easily able to send this APK. Now, the thing I'm about to install, I am not promoting as a thing you should be doing. It's just something I'm going to install, and we'll take a look at here. So as you can see, show settings is popping up. We can tick that box, and now this application is able to install APKs, which does of course open the door to installing, sideloading any application that you want to try. I mean, honestly, guys, the more I play with this thing, the more I feel like you're basically getting the Google Chromecast with Google TV with a different remote for a little bit cheaper. This thing is like shockingly good. If you are looking to spend about, $22 or so with tax, $22, $23, you really can't beat this thing. The value proposition here is kind of unbelievable. All the apps are there. Everything is running just fine for me. The only real downside that I can find is just that there's a bunch of buttons that I have no use for, but otherwise, everything seems really good. Speaking of these buttons, the profile button up there, what that does is you can have multiple profiles on your Google TV. So, of course, that's what that's going to be. The little TV set button there, if I go back over here and I click that, what that seems to do is nothing. I don't see that it's actually having any effect at all. So I'm not entirely sure what that button is meant to be doing. It's entirely possible that I uninstalled or disabled the app that it was going to be using. It might have been like YouTube TV could have been a simple answer, but I uninstalled it. So just like the Netflix button isn't doing anything either because I disabled that. That might have been what that was. I do like having a dedicated settings button that pulls me right up to that. And then, of course, if at any point I want to search for something, I can hold down the little microphone button, Shane Craig on YouTube, let it go, and it's going to fire up a search, which looks like it's working relatively quickly. It's fired up YouTube, it's performing the search, and there you go. Again, this is really, really good for $20. I wish I had an affiliate link to make some money off this video, but I don't for Walmart. But I'm still going to link to it in the description down below so you can check that out for yourself. Yeah, check it out. It's really quite good, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.